Hello and welcome to our show. And we are very excited to have you on today.
Thank you. Thank you.
Yes, thank you.
Okay, I'll get started from the very beginning. My story started before I was born. My mom was very sick. She didn't have a doctor that wanted to save the baby. The doctor wanted to abort me from an early part of the pregnancy because my mom was sick. She told the doctors repeatedly she would have me if God wanted her to have this baby. So with that being said, she went through with the pregnancy, and about 6 months in, she got really sick and got toxic with toxemia, I believe is what she called it at the time. The doctors again said they needed to probably induce labor to save her and possibly the baby. They were trying to save her life, and they were hoping maybe they could save mine. I was born a little over 2 months premature in 1967. So I'll be 59 in October, so I'm approaching a birthday. But I had been born right around 2 pounds is what I weighed at birth in 1967. They placed me in an incubator. I lived in an incubator for about 2 months of my life. My mom and dad brought me home around Christmas in 1967. I think probably because I was so close to death, I think that's why I've always been close to source. I was able to leave my body at a young age to avoid like high fever, being sick, and hardship. There was a car accident where I left my body for a second so I wouldn't feel the impact. But I've had a lot of weird experiences, and I think that a lot of that was because I was so close to death from an early age, right about birth. But the rest of my experience really doesn't start again until I'm about 30 years old. When I was 30 years old, I was going to end my life. I knew that I was losing things in my life that were close to me. My dad had just had a very bad stroke. My mom was in the hospital with a seizure. I was not in a good place. I was going through a divorce. I felt like I was losing everything in my life that was important to me. And at a young age, I had seen my mom, my dad, and my wife at the time in my whole life as I looked into the future, like I think we all do. We hope that down the road, we see us growing old with the people that we love the most. My dad was only 51 when he had his stroke. My mom was only 52 when she had her seizure. And they were the nicest people in the world. I was really raised by 2 great parents. I was lucky as a kid that I had 2 loving people that were going to help me to be a better human. And at almost 30 years old, I chose to end my life. I was going to end it so I didn't have to suffer anymore. I didn't have to watch my parents suffer. I didn't want to go through the divorce and start life over. I felt like I had nowhere to turn. I didn't believe in God anymore because I thought, how could he take 2 wonderful people that really treated me kind their whole life, and I saw how they treated others, and they always treated others with kindness. They always treated others with respect. They always tried to do things through love. And so I didn't understand why the world was so mean to them, being such great people. And so that really was hard on me to have a faith. I tried to go to church at a young age. I tried many churches. The first church that I went to, I lived near, and they ridiculed me because I was learning how to play guitar at 7 years old. And they told me it was the instrument of the devil. And I didn't understand that because it brought me a lot of joy. I knew other guitar players, and they didn't seem like the devil. I'm 7 years old, so I don't know what to think, But I knew that did not seem right to me. I thought that the guitar that was something that was positive in my life, and I didn't want anybody to tell me otherwise. So I didn't go to that church anymore after that, and I tried other churches, but I always felt something was wrong, like they were missing out on something. They weren't being totally truthful, or they weren't actually teaching what God meant for us to do here. I didn't believe in my heart. So ending my life, I thought, was a good way to just be done with the pain of what was about to happen to my parents, the pain of going through a divorce, the pain of working every day. Life was just hard for me at that time. Financially, I was not in a great place, so a lot of things in life were just not good for me, and I just wanted to end it. And so before I was going to do that, I had made plans so nobody would miss me. I took time off of work. It was all planned. It was going to happen the way I knew it was going to go down. And I went to bed thinking that this was probably my last night of sleep. And I had the most crazy experience that most people could probably ever tell you about. Like I said, I was able to leave my body many times in life through fever. I could sit up in a room and watch my body from a distance and know that that body was sick, and I didn't want to be near that body. Well, this time was different. I went to sleep, and I had visions before in my sleep. I had things that would come true. I would wake up at like 3 a.m. sweating, and I would have a nightmare, and I would think, is that something that's going to come true? Because sometimes things did come true. I had visions of 9/11. I had visions of the Oklahoma City bombing that happened in the United States. I had visions of just things in my own life, losing a pet, losing a family member, losing a relationship. I would have visions of things that were going to happen in my life, I think to warn me so I wouldn't be so hurt, or maybe to prepare me so I would know how to handle it. But that night in particular, I went to bed and I went to sleep, and I woke up, and what I believe was where they have the Akashic records, if I'm saying that correctly.
Yes.
So I remember seeing the library. It was really beautiful. I seen a lot of people coming and going. I was introduced to people that had supposedly helped me plan my life. I knew there were family members there that I had known that had passed. And there was family members there that I felt I knew, but I did not know them by name, but I felt they were part of my soul group, if that makes sense. And then I was shown, searching out my life, like searching for my parents. I chose my parents, and I was shown very clearly that, I would search people out so I could figure out how to learn love. I wanted to learn unconditional love, and I knew that those two people loved each other in a way and were brought up in a way that they knew what love felt like, and I felt like they could teach me love. Now, I learned love by being treated very well through a couple of parents. I also learned love and empathy and a bunch of other things by how I was treated poorly in my life. I'm not a big guy. Being premature, I was always one of the smallest kids in school, probably the smallest kid in school. So I was picked on a lot, by the bigger the guy, the more they picked on me. And it was like that, much of my childhood, much of my high school years. And then I got acne, and then there was a whole new reason for them to pick on me. So, I learned at a very young age and all through most of my life that, people are not kind. So I always chose to be kind, and I was kind to those that I thought were shunned. I was a band geek. I learned how to play the trumpet starting at 6 years old. So I took music lessons early in life. And so I always felt like the band people were kind of my people. They were kind of made up of a whole, collection of different types of people. Some were popular, some were not popular, some were good at school, some were not good at school, but we all seemed to fit. And this eclectic group of people made great music together. And so I knew at a young age I wanted to do music. But back to my experience, I was shown many things that I wanted to learn in this life. I was shown picking my parents. I was shown I would learn empathy for others by going through hardship, things like being picked on, going through loss, the loss of a marriage, the loss of a relationship. Every time I went through a loss, I grew inside, but I did not understand that growth until I was actually, being shown that I chose some of these things so I would learn. That gives you a whole new perspective, I think, when you're shown that, like, I know I was told by many people, and I said it to myself, I didn't choose to be born. Well, actually I did, and I was shown that, and that was eye-opening. Once they decided to show me that, I knew that I did choose to be born, and I did choose to go through some hardship. I chose to be a sickly child. I learned empathy, sympathy, patience was a big one for me. I didn't learn patience easy. But I think we all go through things so we can learn to be better humans. At least that's my belief. But when I woke up the following day, I didn't remember much. I remember being there. I remember being shown my parts of my life. I was shown into the future by at least 3 years. To my account, I know I was shown, perfectly 3 years into the future, everything that was going to happen to me. But I didn't remember a lot of that. I would have a deja vu moment as those items would unfold. Like, I was shown I was going to go through a divorce. I was shown I was going to lose my mother. I was shown that I was going to gain another relationship during the loss of my mother. All of that happened just as I was shown. But every time that one of those moments transpired, I would have that weird feeling where you kind of get the shivers and your hand stands up on your arm and you're like, oh, I was shown this. Well, yeah, then that would take me back to my situation that I was shown things. And like I said, I've had, many instances where I was shown things in my life, but this was definitely the most profound, because it was about me. It was about my life, and, whether I was going to choose to end it or whether I was going to choose to stay and live the life that I promised to live. I made promises with people, and if I didn't come here and fulfill those promises, some of those people were going to have a harder time. I was really lucky to share music with a guy that had muscular dystrophy, and I promised to be a part of his journey long before he came here, and I was shown that relationship, and I was shown that if I chose to end my life, he was going to have a harder time trying to find people to do what I said I would do for him. I'm a guitar player, and I've been playing guitar now for well over 50 years. I've recorded albums with people from all over. I've done live shows on music that I never even created. They would hire me to do shows. But I was going to promise to be a part of this guy's journey and to help him, create. He was a great creator. He wrote beautiful music. He played guitar. He played drums. He played keyboard. He was a composer. He was great at recording. I mean, he had a recording studio, and I did a lot of studio work with that guy. And he was just a talent like no other. But he was only supposed to live to be, maybe 20 or so. He outlived his life by double. I don't remember exactly how old he was, but he was like in his mid to late 30s. So he lived a long life. And he was also an artist. I mean, he could draw. He had an imagination like no other. And you couldn't tell Todd that he wasn't going to do something, because he was going to prove you wrong every time. And we lost him a year ago. He finally succumbed to his problems a year ago. But through his life, I was able to really live life fully. And our music lives on. I mean, our music will be out there in the digital age for hopefully the rest of time. Just like I've never been afraid to ask my guides or my universe to help me, find answers, whether it's been for my health, whether it's been, help me really do good in this job search or something. And it seems like things are always given to me, information that'll help me in my search. Well, so I lost my dad in 2016. I lost my mom now 22 years ago. After I lost my dad, I was single. I dated a gal that had a really bad drinking problem, and I don't drink. So we weren't really that compatible. And I told the universe, I'm like, look, I guess I'm just not going to do this anymore. I'll have animals, but I can't be in a relationship. I can't raise an adult. you know. So I said, if you want me to be with somebody, you have to put that person in front of me, because I'm not going to look anymore. I'm done. I'm just going to live my life. I'm going to play my music. I also work a career, so I'm busy, and I'm busy enough to where it didn't hurt me to be single. I wasn't looking for love anymore, and it was like the answers were given to me that I had to work on myself before the universe was going to put the person in my life that was going to enhance my life and not complicate it. And then I also had the fleeting voice in my head say, why are you trying so hard all your life to look for love when it's right inside of you? And so I learned through that communication that I must have to learn how to love myself before somebody else can truly love me. So I started building a life for myself. I have a great home on a lake. I had a couple of cats that I absolutely adored. I was in 3 or 4 bands. I was living the best life I knew how to live. And then by chance, in a spiritual group that I was in online, some girl posted in that page one day, and she seemed like she needed some type of help, or maybe somebody could give her some pointers on what she was going through. So I responded, and that was 9 years ago, and we're getting ready to celebrate 9 years together. And she moved 600 miles almost to be here. I wasn't afraid to ask, and I believe the universe put somebody in front of me that I was supposed to be with. And I also believe my folks picked her out. I do. I believe my folks, really, really searched high and low to try to help me not be alone. Nobody wants to die alone, right?
Because I'm actually a medium, and I had out of body experiences. And when my grandmother died, she made with me together a promise. I said, you better promise me to take me to heaven and show me everything. And she did.
Wow.
And I left my body. I knew, like, after she died, maybe a day only or 2, I laid down, and all of a sudden I stood next to her. I didn't know how I left my body, but she was totally dead. Like, she wasn't alive, but she stood there totally alive. And we went from one place like this to the next like this. And I mean, it was amazing. And I was like, oh my God, like I questioned her, like, what do you do, And so she's still lingering around to the old places where she used to live. And I was right there. It was shown with me and her, like we both were there. And then I asked, do you eat? Do you sleep? I asked her all these questions. And she said like this, you can't know everything. And I have to go now. And I said, wait a minute, where do you have to go? And then she pointed at the ceiling, and the ceiling was gone. It was full of light, like amazing. And I looked up and I said, if I wake up right now, like I was already like, I was like, I'm gonna get a shock, a heart attack. This can't be real. Like, how is this possible? Like my senses came together, and I said, I gotta go too, because I'm gonna die right here. And so I left, and I fell out of bed, and this was so incredible. And that light in the ceiling was moving, and you could feel that energy want her back. Like, it was amazing.
Oh, I bet. Oh,
Yeah.
just the way you described it sounds amazing. That's really awesome.
That's why I can relate on, when you say out of body, that's amazing. So those experiences.
Yeah, and a lot of people don't really believe us when we say that, but like I said, I've been close to death since I was born. So I attribute most of my ability to that, my empathy and a lot of that to my life experience and being so close to death so many times, you know. You said your grandma showed you heaven. Well,
Yes.
before my mom passed, we made a pact that if something happened to me or if something happened to her, we would come back and let the other know that we were okay.
Ah.
And so my mom, after her seizure, she was pretty much a 2-year-old for the last 8 years of her life. So she carried around a stuffed bear that would talk if you touch it or squeeze its paw or its belly. And I brought it home after she passed away, and I put it in the chair. And the next morning I was making coffee and it said, "See you later." And I'm like, wow. And I thought to myself, Mom, was that your sign? And as soon as I thought it said it again. And so I called my wife down and I'm like, you have to hear this. So I told her the story of our pact. And my wife was my mother's caregiver. That's how I met her at the time. So I told her, I said, my mom said she'd let me know she was okay. And I said, so the bear, and as soon as I said the bear said it again.
Wow.
And so it said it 3 times. And I went over to the bear and the switch was turned off.
Wow.
And so it's been sitting now for over 22 years. And it recently started making sounds again. And it has the same batteries from 22 years ago. And it's still turned off. I have a psychic that I really trusted that came through. I lost my son in January. And I never been to a psychic before. And my girlfriend Heather, she bought tickets to a psychic dinner, have dinner with a psychic. And so I met up with a few psychics that night. I didn't ask anything particular, but I went because I just recently lost my son. He sadly committed suicide in January. I had no clue that anything was going on with my son. He had recently gotten married. I thought I could finally let go and realize that he was going to be okay, because he found a really great woman. He married her. And so, I thought everything was going good. I did not expect it. It was really unexpected. And I believe, he moved down south about 14 hours away from me. So I hadn't seen him in about 3 or 4 years. And so that made it hard because I hadn't seen him. But I feel like we're closer now than we were when he was gone for 4 years, because I feel him with me. I feel it, I know he's here. I've been told he's here. My cats see him, so I actually feel closer to him now. I mean, I can tell you about what happened to me a couple of days ago. 2 days ago, I was expecting, or 3 days ago, I guess now, I was expecting my neighbor to come over, and I heard a knock on the door. And I go to the door, and I open up the door, and it's not my neighbor, it's another young man. And he looks strikingly like my son. And he reached out his hand to shake my hand. He said, "Hi, I'm Raphael." And that was my boy's name, Raphael.
Wow.
And I just smiled. I didn't want to let him, stop whatever he was there for. And he said, "I really don't even know why I stopped here." He said, "But I'm from Terminex," and he pointed at his shirt. And he said, "I'm here, because we're doing pest control in the area and want to know if maybe I'd be interested." And I said, "Well, not right now. I'm not interested." I kind of explained my current situation with the house. And I said, "I'm glad to meet you today because my son's name was Raphael and I lost him in January." And he said, "Well, maybe that's why I stopped by today." And he asked me how Raphael spelled his name, with an F or a P. And I told him with an F. And he said, "It's like in the Bible, and he started telling me the story. And I'm like, "Yep, that's my son, and that's why he was named that, And so I wanted to ask him for a hug. And before I knew it, we were both embraced, hugging each other, and both in tears. And I tell you what, when that young man was hugging me, it was my son hugging me. That was my son's hug. I can't explain it, but that boy held me just like my son held me. I know that we shared a hug through that experience. I honestly believe it. I'm living the life that I believe I chose to live. I mean, I know my life has taken some changes, and I know that maybe in another parallel universe, maybe, you know, my life has done some different things that maybe I'm not doing today. You know, who knows? You know, I
Yeah.
mean, I was shown in one of my dreams several years ago that I was supposed to die in 25. So, and I was able to beat it, but I
Wow.
was shown dying in 2025 and coming back to my home as a ghost. And
Wow.
I asked the universe for help at that time, and I found a nutritionist that just seemed to speak to me just like I had asked the questions to the universe. He answered every question, and he basically said if I had taken the vaccine, which I did, he said if you took the vaccine, you should be doing this, this, and this, and this, and this. So I started following his advice, and then he said if you feel like you've got cancer, or if you feel like this, you should do this, and this is how we treat cancer. And he does everything naturally through nutrition. It's all nutrition. There's no medicine. And
Yeah.
I started what he did, and I tell you what, I feel better than I've felt in a long time.
Wow, yeah, that I believe we both totally believe in nutrition, because what gets in your body, you know, it affects the body. And so we both are vegan, we don't eat meat, don't drink milk from the cow. I mean, that's just what we do, you know.
Yeah,
But we definitely believe in a good food and whole foods, nutrition, herbs,
yep.
parasite cleanse, all that.
Yes,
Yeah.
exactly. Yes, I'm starting one today. I just want to say, you know, love yourself, love others. You know, find the blessings every day. They're there. And when hardship comes up, there's a blessing behind that hardship too. I can point to many, many hardships in my life where I was blessed because of hardship. Try to look at the hardships as learning lessons. Maybe it's something that you signed up for. Sometimes free will does play, so you know it's not always, you know, give and take. Maybe we didn't choose everything that happens to us, but we're going to learn from it, and we're going to be blessed for it. And if not in this lifetime, then definitely in the next lifetime. But forgive others, because forgiveness is a big thing. And just be kind and be nice, because everything has a ripple effect, both good and bad. You know, if you do something kind, you will see the ripple effect. I was shown in my experiences how me not being kind to somebody had a really bad ripple effect, and it really made me look at things in a different way. So try to be as kind as you can. Love yourself, love others, love animals, love nature, especially love nature, you know.